Rayla, can you go on YouTube and make sure we see this on YouTube?
Yes. It just came on
On YouTube?
YouTube.
Okay, perfect, then we're good.
I'm just gonna tell you, now that I'm situated, I don't know if y'all wanna, I'm gonna have time. I'll be
Oh,
at the
okay.
Board of Appeals,
Oh.
but I'll have more time
Okay,
to work on it. I've been flooded. Just right now, I'm up to 2,000 cases.
oh my.
It's crazy, you know?
Mhm.
But anyway, and thank you, I think Mr. Ronnie Morse put, same thing in the agenda today.
Well, I think they're gonna be, it's a part of one of the items, yeah.
Part of one, okay.
They can talk in the one.
Okay.
Now I gotta figure out what I go back to now.
Look, now, I know that I have to do early because I have a Supreme Court
Okay,
meeting.
but this is gonna be in that's early in the agenda. You see this on YouTube? I don't know if I did that right, what I was supposed to do. On YouTube?
No, but I see the start is, okay, so yeah.
Perfect, perfect.
There's a delay.
That's okay.
It heard me talking real loud. It heard me. That's all you did. Okay, yeah.
That's good.
It's your back.
And I got that a lot, especially when I'm in politics. I got that. Sometimes I feel like I'm maybe. Over the years. Oh,
They shared it on YouTube and it said it was.
Okay, then all good.
But I, now you're gonna, when it ends.
Stop. Stop.
Stop. Because it'll be new about it. Well, no upload. Not only the thing that they should, that we can.
Just say. Boy, this is.
No, it's okay. It's wrong that.
Last. I corrected it. It's just you. And X without me.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Good morning. Good morning. So it is 10:05. We'll get the door closed and then we'll get started. Okay, Mr. Johnny Adams.
Here.
Karen Austin. Here. Ms. Kelly Bonaventure. Here. Ms. Faith Brujo. Here. Mr. Tony Kane.
Here.
Judge Raynor Dansberg. Dr. Delphina Davis. Judge Blair Edwards. Here. Ms. Tahana Francis. Judge Gail Grover. Present. Mr. Ronnie Morris.
Here.
Ms. Beth Mello. Here. Ms. Jenny Ponder. Ms. Casey DeManero. Here. Mr. James Russell. Dr. Robin Sims. Here. Ms. Dr. Robin Simmons. Ms. Erin Sims. Here. Dr. Ernest Singleton. Present. Ms. Tirza Smith. Mr. Jonathan Winfrey. Ms. Shannon White. Here. Thank you. You have a quorum present. Now you have your minutes from June 21st in your packets. Are there any corrections to the minutes in your packet? None, minutes will stand as given. So the next item on the agenda is the consideration of the recommendations of the task force. So I want to first of all, thank you all for the flexibility in making changes over the past couple of months with our meeting. One, we had a hurricane that was happening, so we didn't meet. Then we had a very short turnaround for some other things, so we didn't meet at that point. And so thank you for looking at the task force recommendations and providing feedback via email. And so what you have in front of you, if you look in your packet, where it starts with the task force recommendations. I have the recommendation written in that aquamarine color. Then you have our kind of rationale, and then we ask for considerations. And under the considerations is the feedback that you all provide. So it's in bulleted form, and that's the feedback that was provided by individuals on the task force. And so what we would like to do is kind of review these again, give any kind of updates that you would like to see on overall recommendation. Then at the conclusion of our discussion, then we will take a look on all of the recommendations at one time to determine how we want to move forward with this particular one. But, yes.
And before we get started, I just want to say good morning to everybody and recognize the president, the president of FESI, Mr. Ronnie Morris, who is also joining us. So thank you, Mr. Morris, for coming.
And so we do have some individuals with us today. If you would like to make a comment, we have some public comment cards, so please go ahead and fill those out. And we will definitely recognize individuals who want to make public comment.
Okay, so our first recommendation is to require schools to establish an attendance team to monitor and analyze attendance data. And we talked about this last time, just making sure that LDOE has a connection with the school district, with the team. I know it's an additional team because I see that in some of the comments, but it's the way we would make sure that there's a vehicle where we can interact with the schools and the districts to talk about what's happening with the data that we receive for the attendance.
And so, you know, there was a concern that, oh, there's another team that needs to be in place. This can be an existing team already at the school. So it's not an additional team. This is just this is that same group of people that we would work with to train them on how to implement these attendance plans. So right now, our team's working on a series of professional development. It would be like 3 different instances. It'll be a pre-conference and then 3 additional meetings. So they will know how to implement these attendance plans. And what those attendance plans will require them to do to build a team, conduct a needs assessment. Based on that needs assessment, these are the things that we need to implement to make sure our students are in school and they're looking at their own data. They're looking at what's happening in their community. And then they would build those habits so they would know how to support school students who are absent at their own school. So it may look one way at Oak Elementary and it may look totally different at Oak High School. It's gonna look totally different because it's a different set of students at each one of those schools.
Questions, concerns?
I think that will actually help because the concern for other CWAs across my region was just that some systems do it well and have existing teams. Some teams do it in 504. And so just to have something separate, like we have all these teams and I'm gonna have to pull more people. So I think that if the language reads for school districts to use whoever existing teams, I think that everybody would probably be a little bit better.
So, as a part of that, we wouldn't put that in the recommendation, but as a part of the guidance is that it could be an
Yes.
existing team.
And it should be your set of NCLC teams. We're following the law.
Yes.
Those-
SBLC already says you should monitor attendance, so I feel like if this is just reinforcing that, it's something that's already in there, it's not saying anything new. It's not creating a new team, I think that's confusing to say that, and I think we should correct that language because it should already happen.
It should.
Or we should correct the narrative that it's creating a new team, it's not creating a new team.
And I find especially like the unique piece that we're doing at our schools, are clearly different than the EBR school system that has a strong current attendance. And so that's a challenge for us to try to, work with the charter schools to train them on what is consistent across the board, that would be helpful.
Or could we put something in the language that reminds them that we should be doing this through 504?
Sorry, say it one more time.
I said, could we put something in the language that reminds them that they should be doing this through 504?
It's not through 504. It would be.
NCLC, yes, that.
Our 504 is the PLC person there, it's the same, yeah.
It's
And
not
it
for.
can become a part of that 504 once the SBLC are cut to.
Yes.
Also, PBIS also. PBIS is another, that is already done, but it should be looking at.
I think well, the capital parish, which is small state in the state, and we are pretty thin. Meetings and different groups, 4-day week also. Really limits our time, but I like that, which we are into PBIS and this PLC. we just-
Making sure.
That's where we would have to, if this becomes a mandate, so that's where we would be most able to meet, required.
Any other concerns, questions? And just to be honest, all these recommendations came from all of us. So we're feeling good about our recommendations, so they are, yes.
It just sounds like instead of using the word establish, use utilize.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that, that is a great. Mr. Martin?
So when we talk about the training, when we talk about needs, and districts are going to identify needs relative to what? Is there a standard? Is there an exemplar out there? I appreciate the student's comment that some folks are doing well. I would frankly heard that conversation. So if there's somebody that's out there doing well and there is an exemplar, I'd like to better appreciate and identify needs relative to what standard, what are the expectations?
Needs,
Where are those expectations?
I think the needs relative to that individual school, because the needs at a school in Ascension Parish is gonna be very different than the needs at a school in Mr. Adams' school system. So it's the needs relative to that community, because what happens you know, at Bel Air High School in East Baton Rouge is gonna be very different than what happens at Dutchtown in Ascension. So the needs is going to be dependent on that particular school. There, I don't think there is a standard that can be put in place because attendance issues are very individual.
I think differ, my opinion, how they implement the work would be unique to each school. But I think there should be a standard across the board regarding expectations for attendance. And I think we should be clear about what those standards are. And so that if folks are going to identify needs as relative to the standard, we're all on one accord. These are the expectations. And that shouldn't be ambiguous.
Well, you need should be based on your attendance data.
Yeah, I've got my attendance data, I'm comparing it to what?
Your ADA, like from year to year. So I will start there, like what kids are in your red zone, kids that are habitually having attendance issues, then that becomes an initial need.
So, okay, so if that's the standard, I just like to be clear across the state, that's the standard. That might be the standard in Ascension Parish, and that's your expectation. But the numbers I've seen, the state average is, 45% right now? Across the state, that's the average. That's obviously unacceptable. So to me, I think there's an ambiguity in the conversation here about what are the expectations across the state. So that's my point is, I would just like for us to be clear on what the expectations are, because right now it's 43% and it's flatlined for the last 2 or 3 years, so it's not a COVID conversation anymore. And apparently that's status quo. So I think that's unacceptable, and I think we have to be clear what the standards are, and if what's the current status quo is, it's not what's acceptable. And then my second point is that once we do get some clarification on what the needs are, then, okay, what do we do with it? We're gonna take that to LDOE. What are we gonna do once we got the ball? What are we gonna do with the ball?
So the needs are established, as Dr. Simmons said, based on the data for that particular school. So what happens at Dutchtown High School and their needs, they're going to address what they need to do to address attendance at Dutchtown High School. Then that attendance team at Bel Air High School, their needs are going to be very different possibly from what happens at Dutchtown. So they're going to address their needs to make sure that they are improving the attendance at their school. So it's not going to come to us, it's going to be at that school level that they are trying to improve the attendance rate, reduce the truancy rate, reduce the chronic absenteeism rate at that school based on their needs. Isn't that what you all do in Ascension?
Yes.
So how's that different from what was supposed to be?
Right now, we don't have this in place. The recommendation that we would like to make eventually is to require schools to utilize an attendance team. Right now, all schools do not do that. I think Miss Francis had her name.
Hannah Francis, I'm CWA in Lafayette Parish, one of 4 truancy officers. I think that's where our big conversation comes in with the numbers we have. What we've done in Lafayette Parish, we've just tried to streamline it through a process through our entire district. So, we have a 3-day process for the greeting letter, a 5-day, where a 5-day letter goes out, and then we have attendance teams that start making phone calls at 7. Every school has an attendance team now, and we've seen that be more beneficial than just 4 truancy officers. Especially during COVID, we went down to 2 truancy officers. We had a reduction in force. So I think what needs to happen is when we get to that attendance team part where we're school-based truancy team, and like you're saying, the needs are very different. By the time we get to 7, we're doing school-based initiatives where we're doing truancy-free diversion meetings. We're inviting parents to come in, sit with us, let us know what the problems are, and we're putting services in place that way. And working as a multidisciplinary team with our social workers, our SBLC teams, outside agencies. We have a lot of MOUs currently in Lafayette Parish with outside mental health agencies that are able to come into the school. So it's about that wraparound service. We have some things that are kind of mirroring at some of our schools, but the demographics of the schools are so unique that it is very difficult to just say, this is what we offer. So we have to really, by the time you get to the 7-day,
7 or more absences, it really is individualized. It's a plan, and then we're trying to prevent them from having to go before the judge. So we're providing education, so I think front loading our families, with education about attendance is important, but then also, as we go through the year, coming back mid-year after we come into, we're on a semester, second semester, we're gonna front load them again. Just as a reminder of what we did summer. And we did summer TPDs this summer where all we did was truancy free diversions for any student. We have a grant currently. Any student who met criteria for truancy in the last school year, we invited parents to meet with us this summer, and we are seeing that that was helpful. We addressed attendance, uniforms. We addressed any barrier that they had, along with our grant before school started this year. So we're seeing that has been helpful this year.
And I would say that we also have, peer committee, we have school-based within teams at every school. In addition, we also have threshold, 5, 3, 5, 7, and 10. And then even, something at 20 that we do. However, we have truancy workshops as well. They engage those parents as a pre-trial kind of diversionary type of effort or intervention. And we also work with tasks. They work within our district as well, to serve as people for opinion. But when it gets down to the school level, at some point, and then our district is much larger than that yet. So it does become individualized. So different schools, different populations, different needs, different barriers, all come into play when you look at that. So as far as being a cookie cutter approach, I don't see that at the school level piece. It is an individualized, when you're doing that work, it's individualized type of effort, when you get to that school level side.
I was just gonna say that it sounds like too, if I heard you right, when you said that y'all are going to do the professional development, that would include training people on identifying needs and creating needs assessments. So I think like while needs maybe they can be put into maybe big buckets. The thing we're standardizing is doing a needs assessment, and like that's the things we're standardizing that give us then the data. And I'm sure y'all will have a lot more information after y'all done this for a year to then come back and have even more. So like, I feel like the training piece of it is where we kind of identify those needs and things, and that hasn't been happening. So I think it'd be hard to, it's like putting the cart before the horse a little bit, like we're figuring that out, and schools do needs assessments, and that's what's standardized, but needs will always be individual.
But let me ask you, Ms. Morris, are you asking us though, 'cause what I'm hearing you ask, and I may be wrong, is, so we do all this, but what is the accountability? In other words, so we do all of this, but what is the standard that all school districts should be at 95 daily attendance rate? And are we establishing a standard for putting all this effort in, and can you still walk away with 40% of your kids being truant, and that's okay? And where's the accountability back to LGOE, even through the monitoring process? And what should it look like per district, even if it's based upon demographics or needs? Where is that accountability? Is that what you're?
That's right, you're spot on.
Okay.
I fully appreciate that the needs are gonna be different from district to district. I fully get that.
Okay.
And there's gonna be different ways to address those needs from district to district. Get that. My question is, to your point, how do you establish what those needs are, right? And then we've got clear expectations. This is where we need to be, right? Okay, then how do you hold people accountable for that? Yeah, okay, check the box. We got an attendance team. Okay, well, we got that today, right? Well, today ain't working. Across the board. Now, I ask the question again, where's the exemplar? Who's doing it well? What's the best in the state? What do they do? I haven't heard that conversation. So it's unclear to me, where's the ball? So all I'm asking is that we provide some level of detail, some kind of prescription, not necessarily how to do it, but what the expectations are. And how do we hold people accountable for, that they establish those expectations and that they implemented whatever the fix is at their particular district to close the gap on those expectations that they exist. I think we have to be more prescriptive.
It could even be just a percentage increase, because of course, no one's gonna go from 45% to 96%, but we can say, work toward a 5% increase each year, or, you know, whatever the number is. This show.
And I think it's important because then this, if we look at it, are we looking at a 6 months or a year time period? That we come back and say, hey, this is the exemplar, and it still just got us to 80%. And so why is it just getting us to 80%? Is it because the judicial system is not working in alignment with the school district? And is that why the gap is that falling off? Because what if we do all this, right? But then at the end of the day, we don't have police officers to serve summons, but we've done all our part. We need to look at where's the gap?
Well,
With these-
and I'll tell you one of the gaps in the three parishes that I serve is that, you know, there is law in place about truancy, right? Well, the issue is that we're not even getting referrals. And we don't get, I get 0 referrals, and that's why we have one of our parishes here. And when you start looking at elementary children, right? I mean, obviously, it's not these children, you know, tasks are paid for, you know, for the grade. The issue is that when I finally get a referral and the kid missed 60 days, you know, I mean, there you are, and we've missed an opportunity to be able to work with those parents in informal FINs, right? And, trying to assess the need, because our FINs office does assess the need, our task office does assess what's going on in the home. You know, what can we do to help mom? Does mom need substance abuse treatment? Is she a single mom and she doesn't have, you know, they're not catching, I mean, all of these things, right? The issue is when you're getting to November and then all of a sudden you start getting referrals at 60 days. I mean, this is not uncommon. And I'm not talking about, oh, we got 60 days. I mean, I'm saying we have a tremendous amount that we are not receiving, and, we are able to pull in one of our parishes, they have given us access, and we can query and get, you know, the absentees, right? We can't get their information, the children's information, but we can get absentees. But then when we start, you know, getting into that time, and I mean, it overloads court system, I got over 200 kids. You know, and they're past the 10 days.
Point to the team's not meeting,
Yeah.
and the team's not meeting, like, they're not intervening in that school, and if they got.
But that's what I'm saying, I mean,
Yeah, so we're back
this is
to
like,
the
this is
person.
not an
Right,
uncommon
exactly
thing, is
right.
what I'm saying. I mean, I'm talking about, you know, we have a child belt, you know, CWA or whatever, and I'm saying, why haven't we gotten this child? And then when I have a kid that comes in on a delinquency that's major, it's like, wait, he hasn't been in school for 2 years, and nobody's said that this could have been prevented.
And that brings us back to why recommendation number 1 is important, because we know that the law sits there, we know that it's there, it's not being utilized by everyone.
Yeah, so what is accountability? I think that's what I'm saying. What's the key for the schools to make sure that they're addressing these? Because our children are not in school to learn, and it starts at an early age.
Can I respond to that? Because
Please.
I think there's a perspective everybody needs to see all sides of the perspective.
Oh,
And I hear your frustration. I'm not getting until it's an extreme situation.
Right.
So, but I think at the school level, there's a frustration at the school level because there are things between the time the referral is made to the time it's sitting at your desk and it's sitting at your bench and being addressed.
No, I'm saying we get them when they miss. I
No,
mean,
but
they're
that's
giving
what I'm
us
saying.
accountability. So that's
Because
not,
what's contributing to that, and I'll give an extreme situation in high school, and it is an extreme
So now we're
situation.
gonna move on to it.
But you have these situations where a parent gets referred in September. That parent got referred to truancy in September from my school. When that parent's case was finally dispositioned was May.
we're talking about informal. We're not, we're trying to do it informally first, because you don't want the children to come
When it
in.
had already been done informally within the system, we
Right, but I'm saying that the referral comes in, and many of them, and when the referral is referred, not sitting on, it's like 60, 50
no,
days.
but that's my point. So in this particular case I'm talking about, this parent was referred in September. That parent was referred because of 10 late to schools, which fell within the law.
Right.
And the reason it was done without, in that particular case, the intervention had happened in the previous 2 years because the child was in pre-K and kindergarten, and at that time kindergarten wasn't mandatory. So we submitted, got pushback at the VA level. But by the time it made it to the judge's desk, that child had something like 70 late to schools and 25 unexcused absences.
Well,
So those are two different cases.
yeah.
No, I understand,
Different
but
situations, which
they are two different cases, but when we talk about what's going on, these interventions, there is some frustration at the frontline level because once we feel like there, and I know I'm not speaking for myself.
Yeah,
That
I'm just
once
saying,
we
when
do what we're supposed to
CWA
do,
for
there's a.
So many schools is what I'm saying. I mean, there's one CWA, right? And there's so many schools and so the system's overloaded. Like they, in the referrals, I guess, we've tried to shorten ours. I mean, try to make it just where it's a name to this and the information so that they're not sitting there all day. But I mean, there's one person for our, yeah, there's so many schools and I think that's hard to reach.
That is a contributing factor.
It is, yeah.
But in some cases, particularly the charter schools, the CWA is sitting right there, so when it comes out of that charter school, it's supposed to be going
Yeah, we
straight
don't
to.
have any charter schools, so we're, I don't know, maybe less fortunate or more documented.
But I think there's frustrations at all levels. There's
Yeah.
frustration at your level because you're getting them when it's an extreme case. And there's frustrations at our level because the consequences, like prescription, is not occurring until it doesn't matter anymore.
So it gets back.
And the parents know
is, what are the expectations?
Right.
Right, that's my point. What are the expectations? Different expectations here, different expectations there, different expectations there. Expectations should be the same across the board. Like, then you identify your needs, okay, then you identify how do I address my needs. To me, you got to start with what are the expectations? Maybe that's not being effectively communicated and it's not allowed.
Isn't there already expectations for how often SBLC meets? Like, that's already a thing. There's already an expectation that it meets a certain amount, I think once a month or something like that. So that's already a set expectation, but what is the mechanism to say, are you meeting? Or what is checking and making sure that when they meet, they're collecting the data? Like, that's what
That's what this thing is going to be like. So we're gonna change the, require students to utilize an attendance team to monitor and analyze attendance data. And going back to Mr. Morris, that is a concern, but I think until we gather data to know, we can't set a standard yet. Because we don't know, everybody's using different definitions of truancy and chronic absenteeism right now, so we have to set that standard. Recommendation number 2, key definition of truancy in statute, but create a discretionary referral process to most efficiently utilize the resources of the justice system.
So we know that truancy is defined as, what truancy is defined as the 5 days, 5 unexcused absences of 5 tardies in a semester. We're not looking at changing that at all. But we know that sometimes students are truant for whatever reason, but they do not have disciplinary issues, their academics are still on point. So for those particular students, we're looking at having a discretionary process at the local level prior to them being referred to the justice system. So that is how this came about with this, that is the recommendation from this.
Can I just ask, and I'm not, but, many other states have a truancy definition of unexcused absences. And I guess my question is for consideration or just some, feedback with it being 5 unexcused absences in comparison with other states makes us look much more egregious statistically. Additionally, when you have a minimal number of CWA personnel addressing several students per person, at 5 unexcused absences, sometimes, those of that have the boots on the ground are doing this work. And at day 5, you may just then be finding out about the extenuating circumstance of what's going on with that student. In order to put some services in, or to say, okay, there's a health plan that's needed, but the data is already in that they're truant. So I'm just, curious about why, that would not be included to align with many other states that have 10 unexcused absences as a law for truancy.
So why wouldn't we consider changing the definition? That could be a consideration that would have to, it is in statute, so that would have to be changed. have to get someone to carry that particular bill for that. But that could be a recommendation of this committee, to make.
And that's, I think the biggest thing is that by the time that person comes across your desk, they've already met that, you know, yes. And so the numbers have already gone in, these students are truant. However, it doesn't really allow you enough time because you're limited to what you can do when you have so many schools and not enough personnel to address everything. To even address the student before they are, I think 10 days would be more reasonable, to even address the issues of the student.
I would take the opposing position. I think it sends the wrong message. I think that, we need to be clear what the message is, the expectation is the kids are gonna go to school. And I think it sends the wrong, my personal opinion, it sends the wrong message. I think it's an adult problem if we don't have the resources in place to address the problem, because the problem's so bad. I don't think the answer is to relieve the adult problem, not address the kids' problem. I think our focus should be on what we do to incentivize the kids in school. And again, be really clear about what the expectations are. Expectations are you go to school. You know, and unless you got a really good excuse, you know, you're sick or a family emergency or whatever, we're in school. It's not because the adults didn't have enough people to process the problem. Like, so personally, I take the opposing position. The message is not appropriate.
That the adult staff have the system in place that may be overwhelmed, is the tools to help get that information faster. I mean, we talked about different ways to account for when a child is absent from school, so that there is not a delay when it comes to you, that they're already crossed the threshold. That how can we put a tool in, despite the fact that we don't have enough human resources, if we deal with the technology that we have, we can close that gap to say, it's not 5, 6, 7 days before you're across your desk. We can get it down to 2 to 3 days. You know, we can close that gap with the technology, where we can make do with hiring more people. And it's cost effective, and it also helps move the needle in the right direction. So we just need to.
Yeah,
get
we've
smarter
gotten
about
pushback,
that.
like in one parish, they don't want us to have any access. In another parish, they do, so we can run the queries, we can get the data, you know, we can get the kids and that.
And I'm not even sure that we are at statewide, have a, you know, I don't know that it's possible with so many diverse, you know, school settings, that attendance is collected in a way that is consistent across the board.
And I think that's still, because when I'm listening to this too, the 5 days renders a child truant.
Yeah.
But even in Orleans Parish, that is when we start the referral process to FAM. They do not go to the judicial system. So it goes back to the standard and how we categorize in kids. But again, I think that goes back to recommendation number 1, and making sure that if that team is in place and they do the needs assessment, it gives us the information all the way up to LDOE, but it stays with that district and what the issues are. And we don't know that right now, from one district or parish or school to the next. So we do need that needs assessment from that team and that interaction and the training of that team so that we can create that consistency. It is not consistent.
And
The truants are doing it fine.
even once we have that consistent way of capturing, attendance, there is still a spectrum of degree of truancy
Yes.
that requires us in our roles to intersect where it is appropriate and legal to make a difference, to get a kid back to, and reconnect it to school. I listened to, and I'm sorry, the young man at the end here,
Mr. King.
Mr. King, there's a different.
He's like, whoa, wait a minute.
You were doing young. But there is a different part of the spectrum for the juvenile justice system to be involved, and that should always be at the end.
I agree.
And the end is always, should be incorporated the number of days. If we have a kid who faces us at 60, as Judge is saying, then the court is already at the end by the number of this child. We can't start and pretend that this is a kid with 3 days.
Right.
Not if you want to reconnect them. So do we leapfrog to get them here and fall short of a trial so that we don't remove a kid and throw the other part of our system into a tailspin because they can't receive that new kid? So it's different levels.
This recommendation helps to address the backlog buildup, right? I mean, isn't that?
Yes,
it
It's
should.
idea.
Yeah.
I think it helps to address.
Yeah, so with this particular recommendation, we would create some guidance to help school systems with those students who we would not necessarily consider truant because of academics or disciplinary. So this was that recommendation.
It's sort of standardized.
Yeah.
So I'm understanding, if I'm understanding this correct, if a child is true, but has a discipline problem and is making good grades and passing, it won't get to the point. You'll still deal with it on your local level.
Yes.
And go up to-
That's what this is.
And I feel like that's a catch-22 as a CWA, because we have constantly have to call schools, our judges asking us, how are they passing if they're missing 30 days? Because they're putting E's in the computer instead of zeros in the computer. So then we're giving parents a false expectation that they don't have to be here, that they're passing classes. So we really have to be mindful of that. That is happening.
As long as they pass the test.
Yes. They're not physically, hold on, and then we have children who are physically present every day. I argue this when my child was in school. She's physically present every day, taking, the course that she needs to take, and she has a C in the class. She has a child who is truant, has an A in the class, and they've been exempted from work. And they're being graded on 15 things, and the child who is not here is being graded on 5 things.
There's still some teach time requirements, I question that too.
The attendance recovery also, that's another big piece we have to look at, because every school system is doing something different for attendance recovery. Some school systems are saying, just come to 1 hour of after-school tutoring and we'll let you recover an entire day. We're reinforcing them not to come that way. Like, if I don't have to spend 8 hours in after-school recovery to recover this time, and I just have to go one time, then it doesn't
But
make a
that's
big
not
deal
even
if I
six
come.
time requirements, so I'm interested in hearing how that's happening.
So I've written that down and we'll take that down and we'll look at
That's not a legal
that.
coverage. All right, recommendation number 3.
We come back, they're
We're just uncovering one problem. The adoption of a formal definition of chronic absenteeism as missing 10% or more of school days. And we do have a current definition, Dr. Singleton will read for us.
So what we do with our data, this is the definition of how we are, meeting federal requirements with data is students who enroll for at least 10 days and are absent for 10% or more of days enrolled. Students are counted once at each level, state, school system, and site. So that's what we're doing with our data. But again, none of this is in policy or statute. That's what the chronic absenteeism. We have a definition in statute for truancy. As a state, we just do not have this in statute or policy. So what we're asking is, do you all want to make a recommendation to formalize the definition of chronic absenteeism? So that's what this recommendation is.
Can you tell me, I'm just so curious, was it oversight when dealing with truancy that there was a confusion of conflating truancy with absenteeism and so it was left silent? Or was there an intentionality in not defining absenteeism?
Do we have any history on that, Ashley?
I think that it wasn't at the, as we started talking about truancy, people were talking.
Maybe it could be because you can be chronically absent and still have a bunch of opportunities. So it was kind of that in between.
Or be
Gray area.
I think others.
I think that was involved in service high school back there.
So any, is the recommendation, are you all fine with us moving forward with that as a recommendation?
Yeah.
We have.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be hard. And I've been looking at that pretty much across the United States, so I think that's pretty much. Go back, can you read that definition one more time? We do want to make sure that that includes suspensions, expulsions, et cetera.
It does, yeah, but because that's.
I'm still finding, you're still finding that.
I recommend, yes,
In that regard, could we, make a recommendation to do just a little bit of cleanup on what was passed? Because there's some uncertainty, like with school districts around, so we have excused and we have unexcused, like defining, fully defining what that is for school systems.
Because some schools are still using suspensions as excuse, as unexcused versus excuse, where it allows you to do the work, but it's still considered chronic absence.
so chronic absenteeism includes all. Yeah, chronic absenteeism includes excused, unexcused, or suspension.
But I'm talking about the language that we use,
For
that we
unexcused and
changed for unexcused and excused. So we moved from exempt, non-exempted to that, so just kind of spelling it out in the way that we did before. Like, so we would define what exempt or non-exempt was. Can we define like what excused and unexcused is?
So right now, excused absences are those not considered for the purposes of truancy. That's what it states in policy. So you're saying you want something more there.
Yes, for parents, and the reason I say this is because, a parent, and so we're gonna do a little bit of that with the parent note part,
Mhm.
right? So for parents, in terms of, so I'm telling you that this is an excused absence, but what is an excused absence? And so we're just like, okay, so it's excused if you have some type of correspondence from your provider. It's excused if you have, we used to step it out, like,
Yeah, we have some guidance to that.
So they
I can
just pulling it back
We do have that.
into policy so that way everybody's.
We have guidance related to that. We do have it in policy, those extenuating circumstances, so I can provide you that.
So to answer Dr. Simmons' question, it's in policy today.
We have we have the types of absences in policy, and we have those extenuating circumstances also in policy. And we have a guidance document that I can provide. I can provide.
So it's clearly defined, what's excused, what's unexcused, not ambiguous, is that correct?
Besides the,
It's really the parent side,
It's- yeah.
source that, so we can say it because we know it, right? Because previously in it, you would have exempt, not exempt, you would have the list of extenuating circumstances.
and we have a list of extenuating
But
circumstances in
why is it
policy.
clear for the school system and it's ambiguous for the parents? I don't get it.
Because prior to the law changing, like, this is what we've always seen, and what we've always known, but because the law has changed, to just the language of excuse
It
and
doesn't define
unexcused,
it.
it doesn't define the different types immediately right there. And so what our parents are doing is they're forgetting the previous definitions for those things and saying, well, it's really subjective.
It refers back to them, but it doesn't define them like
Yes.
the old policy did.
So how do we clean that up
We need to just put the definition
Put it
of
back
what they
there.
are back into the
Yes.
new definition.
in
In
policy?
policy.
Okay.
It's already in policy, but it's not listed as it was in the same format. Yes. For the past policy.
So we can capture that.
Yes, that's still in policy.
That would help us.
Yeah, policy has extenuating circumstances.
It lists them.
The policy still lists extenuating.
But the chronic absenteeism, that,
Yes.
That is
not-
no,
no,
this is out.
This is,
That's new.
Yeah.
Those weird skill there.
And that is
We're
another.
gonna capture Dr. Simmons' comments in our recommendation.
Yes.
They just
well,
need to
that's
say
not
that.
his recommendation.
Which is why I'm
Yeah.
trying to get.
That is not in this.
We'll go back and put it
That's
into the one we adopted
Thank you.
in our last school year. And list those different circumstances. Yes.
Ashley, you want to add something?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to make sure I'm clear, so we're wanting to go back to putting the types of absences that can be excused for minutes, mixing that in with the types of absences that can be excused for attendance. Like, so, give you an example, if that's seat time and if that's seat construct, doesn't exist anywhere except in that's the policy. There are certain types of absences that are excused and don't have to count for the number of minutes the students have to be able to give the grade that are. Previously, the types of excuses that would exempt a student from those minutes were conflated with whether or not you were there that day, whether that was okay. And it seemed that that was creating a lot of confusion, and so an earlier recommendation of this task force was to separate that out. And so we did that through policy last year. So now it's excused, unexcused, here are the things that you can be excused, from or whatever. And then you can decide whether or not to give the student the grade they earned for the class based on why they were absent. But it worked out too that lots of school districts had different codes, like different ways they were coding types of absences and was rolling up to the state in a way that really wasn't useful to us or consistent across districts. And so that was why we made that move to simplify that,
Right.
having the exempted excuse, non-exempted excuse, and then unexcused, to just having excused, unexcused. It's just simplify that. So just want to make sure it sounds like what I was talking about is what you're back.
Going back.
Not 100%. So still using excuse and unexcused, because that's very clear language for us, because parents got new needs to exempt and not exempt. The only part that we want is when you have excused and unexcused, so that the parents know that your excuse are meeting one of these extenuating circumstances.
So now you can exempt with it, like there is a piece of that that's discretionary at a principal level. And so, and I think that was part of what was confusing for a lot of communication with parents previously too, is like how that discretion is applied. And so I think that was the part of it that Dr. Hamilton and Dr. Hamilton keep putting together that guidance too, is here's something maybe more palatable for parents where they can see like, here's what's, here's what you can write a note for, and then I think later on I'll get into the rest of the section about the parent note, like what's limited, maybe there's some standardized language of the MD that would be helpful to go out to parents, let them know, like, here's how many notes you can do, here's what you can do a note for, do you need something else for.
I'll give you an example. So I have a parent who is well versed in the law. And so with this particular parent, if it's not explicitly stated, then excuse can be whatever I want it to be. Because it's not explicitly stated. So whereas we would expect you to have something from your provider, well, I don't have to have anything from my provider because you didn't say that this is what's required for excuse.
So maybe we don't need to apply the exemption to the excuse, but maybe we need to specify who's excused. Yeah, back to it. I think that would help a lot.
Right. But none of that falls under chronic absenteeism.
No, that's what
No,
I'm.
no.
Okay. I have to bring it up because it keeps coming up, in my role.
It's just what keeps coming up in our role is that parents and educators keep getting confused on, can I excuse something to make it not chronically absent? And you cannot, there's no
No.
exceptions in there. So if that language could be clearer for parents and for educators, then it doesn't matter what your excuse is. Yeah, the whole thing is you make it in the story.
I'm making sure that we state that it's. So in other words, chronic absenteeism, all of it fits the criteria of the 10 days and the 10%. It includes every type of absence.
Recommendation number 4, identify ways to make past attendance history available to the receiving school system. And I know that we struck out some of the language with the synchronization. I think I actually brought that up. But just making sure that when we are looking at like the editing system, which is what we're using now, and it states chronic absenteeism and the absenteeism, when a child transfers to another district, that information is also communicated to the district so that they don't start the calendar again and chronic absenteeism or truancy. Any questions?
Like within the same year, the same school year?
Yeah, so right now, what, like, when they transfer to another school district, another part of the city or state, I don't know if they're truant or absent, or they have had chronic absenteeism. Because every school doesn't always give the, attendance data.
That's what I'm about to say. That's another thing, is our records requests across the state. We are not doing it from school to school, because if we would include that in our records request, I know whenever we do request, we do ask for attendance in our district. And if we know that they have the history, we will call the parent and just kind of explain what our policy is. But that records request is not streamlined across our state, and it's a problem.
We actually implement this.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where, my request is, in Edlink, you can see the absenteeism. So making sure that everybody that's uploaded and everybody's seeing that, and I don't know, I think that that can be done.
So, and Mr. Lambert is the one who recommended access to it.
Who has access to Edlink? I've never heard of it.
I do.
So all
It's
this,
at the school level.
every
state.
school level has access, I mean, you can give access to everything.
So we'll have to get access, we would have to talk to our, AAA team to figure out who has access. But Mr. Lambert is the one who provided this language in a way to identify ways to help school systems get the history from one to the other.
But I think it's a state.
Yeah.
Have y'all gone to Edmond?
I've never heard of it.
I have never.
That's here to say, who
I have.
the access.
It is a
I mean,
state.
I have, but a lot of stuff I use it for is out of date, it hasn't been updated in a very long time.
I use Edlink daily. I can tell you what every school, every child has been to, all their test scores are there. It is a very accurate, comprehensive system. It has your child's schedules in it. You don't even have to request data for kids. It's all in there with the school.
School system.
So there's school level access, and there's district level access.
And the district can give to the school level access to who they want to give access to.
So for charters, like EPR, all.
I'm chartered.
Yeah.
I have all of that, and I've gone to charters and wanted to show them how to go into admin, to even give teachers access.
So if you're on Edlink, you have access to across the state? Or
I have every child in my
Every child that's in
particular
your
school, but the district has every child in that district. And again, that goes back to recommendations for one, so part.
And your material that you go in there, I stopped using it because none of mine's up to date, like it's 2 years.
So if you're not uploading data to, what's the system, not Edlink. No, when you upload all your student data to now, not Edlink, it's, is it Edlink? I don't remember, it is Edlink, so secure system, yes. So as you add your kids and you get your secure ID, as a new kid comes in, it goes straight into Edlink and you can access it like that. And that data, I have to be honest, is 100% accurate at all times.
So, but this is where your data managers have to be involved.
Yes.
With Edmond.
So is
I don't
there,
even request records too much, except for grades, because I can tell you what their test scores, when they took the test, what their score was, it sits all right there. If they're ESL, if they're IEPs, I mean, I can see all of that in Edlink.
so is
If
there
they're
a way
It's
to
all done
train-
in
records for.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's right.
Is there a way to train and make sure that this is accessible to?
I mean, LDO offers training and it sits on webinar, you can go to the system,
So
it's
who
there.
vets in each school is what role is?
There's a
that-
data manager
Data
that has
manager.
access to Edlink in every school
I
system.
mean, I can pull up my student, mine right now.
And then different people in the school system also have access to Edlink to see various portions of data, because there's so much information in there. It's really going to vary as far as what you can see in Edlink because of the
Because
PI.
they're chronically absent.
But that is what,
It's a really good example of going back to recommendation number one,
Yes,
right?
yes.
When I go back to, okay, what's the standard, what are the expectations? Oh, well, here's the tools, right?
The tool is there.
And if we're not prescriptive enough to identify what are things that people aren't gonna be aware of, they're not gonna use the tools that are
And
available.
now that training can be provided, because now we know that with your needs assessment, you're not even using a system that is.
You're not using-
Wow.
That's so excellent.
The fact that we
They
don't
don't
know
have to
access.
recreate.
Say it again.
I said the fact that there are several people here who don't know it
Yeah, it
exists.
binds me.
Like a school can even drill it down to, I only want my attendance team to have access to attendance data.
yes.
Like I also function as a homeless liaison for our district, so I have access to the homeless data as well, and the attendance as well as the testing data, so on and so forth.
I would make, I know we're chasing a squirrel, but what I'm fascinated about, some people don't know about it, you're using it like an analytic tool. I have reached out to contacts in that department that are personal friends of mine saying, look, my Edlink is missing this, it's 2 years behind you. Yeah, we're just running behind, I'm sorry, and you're saying yours is up to date.
Mine is,
Mine is-
I mean, I'm wondering if you guys are uploading from your.
From your system.
Well, it happens for me, because we're a type 3, but, I mean, that's what fascinates me, is they don't know about it. Mine has been outdated for 2 years and you're using it as a day-to-day tool and it's up to date.
Well, for me, I can tell you this, because I work hand in hand with our legal managers, in our district, and so, it talks to, we're Power School District, it talks to Power School
Yes,
Next.
it does.
And that's the way we set up, so I know that if something is in Power School, that overnight is gonna be in Edmond the next morning.
So who's the go-to person? Who's the contact?
That's
The data manager.
But I think there probably be.
LDOD does, somebody in AAA.
Now, we get emails daily from LDOE saying you haven't uploaded, you need to upload, we don't have all your information. LDOE communicates so often, sometimes I just click it off. But they're constantly reminding you to upload and send your information in, and they don't have it. That's the only way you get
Mr. Lambert's team would be the contact at LGOE for
Yes.
support,
Wow.
districts,
Okay.
hopefully with this resource.
Yes.
This is gonna be better.
I'm sorry.
I just quit using it.
I didn't hear.
And this is one of the key endeavors to.
Please.
Training for business managers.
We
and
need
all
to-
that.
And, and school leaders, so that they can know what's there.
It's progress.
Okay, so as recommendation, or we're gonna keep moving, one more thing about recommendation, for the, and again, now that I'm thinking about it, if we're uploading data to Aldio, either where we're supposed to be with attendance data, the corrections for the synchronization would actually happen. So we don't need to add that part of that, okay. Recommendation number 5, going back to Ms. Amara, create model program guidance on reducing truancy in conjunction with juvenile court judges and making sure that we have got today.
Yeah, so, we know, Judge Rover is here and she has, an established program within her court on what occurs once a student is referred to the juvenile justice system. And so the idea is just to create some model guidance that could possibly be implemented across the state, should a community want to implement that. We also, in the feedback we got, that Lafouche has a similar system, we could also look at what's happening there and try and to create model guidance. That's what this particular recommendation is.
How does that differ from what we're doing today and how we know it works?
We don't have any model guidance at all right now.
Well, I did do for like DDR for the first 2 years, we did, a contract to measure what we're doing, because data-driven decisions are important. And so I wanted to make sure we can that, and we can capture how many kids are successfully completing our attendance improvement plan, how many were not, how many we were unable to locate, how many left the state, and that's where they are. So I wanted to know of the cases we are handling, what's the results, what's the outcome now? We can have them on the budget cuts to do the analysis for this year. And so, but we will hopefully be able to put that back in the budget to do for the 2 years. I intentionally in our court administrator made it where our system captured the kids who are coming to my truancy court and the kids who are placed on an attendance improvement plan to determine, are they successfully closing, are they failing, how many of those kids are not reaching next to school, and then we have to move to the next stage. And it's a very small amount of kids, and how many are we successfully, kind of re-engaging, and getting the services that that's needed, or determining that this was an absenteeism. There's a kid with severe medical issues, that is the cause, and exceptional circumstances. We're trying to make sure that we're capturing some data to see whether this is working, whether it should stop, is it harmful, unintentional, harm is being done. So I think your point is very valid on making sure we know what we're doing, whether we're getting the results. Again, our program is not a prevention program. I think the primary effort is to do the absenteeism prevention that is needed upfront. But once the kid gets to this level, to send them to a Finn's office to do everything that our CWAs and all have been doing in trying to even find the kid, is again, taking forward to the Mr. Lambert's point, Mr. King's point rather, is another 5-6 months in order to do that front end work all over again.
and inundate our fins when they're still dealing with ungovernable kids, runaway, because fins have a number of grounds, not just truancy. And so when they come, because the court has the ability to bring any service into court under the fins laws to address any issue that is a barrier to attendance. So that's what we do. We bring any, I've had a room full of professionals to deal with a case to get a child back in. It is intense, but we're at the end.
So it's a tracking system within the judicial system, is that?
Our data is capturing our data. If a kid is sent to the truancy court, yes, then there is a way to know that this particular child, even if it's there in Division A with Judge Haney, because I'm doing truancy court, that kid is switched over to Division B, so I know where he is. I know if the district attorney has actually taken a referral and is offering attendance improvement plan. The district attorney may look at it and decide this is not appropriate for fins, and we need to send it to the fins department. So that discretion is not eliminated. That's still the legal process, is that the DA gets to make that decision. And once that DA makes the decision and it's lodged, filed, and it's in my court, now the CWA has to come to court with that particular child and any service provided. We kind of set up a mentoring program. We will work with Capital Area and Human Services. We will work with our MST, FFT, whomever it is that we need to have in court after that first hearing. Then they come to court once a month.
So is this model been implemented, which is a funding issue?
It was not initially. We had funding that came through LCLE. They had some extra money, and so we applied for the extra money and got it for that first year to stand us up. It initially started when COVID hit, but we kept running because we knew that there would be tweaks, things we had to do, and we were able to work through those tweaks. And then our city parish governing body gave us money to continue to do the work because if we were seeing some progress, so I asked for the funds and we got it. And so that's where we are now, that it is funded. The cuts that are coming, and probably will have some cuts in that area that will require my mentoring program. The project may go away, but that's how we're funding it right now. There isn't an issue because we are seeing the difference. The kids were sent, like Judge Edward is saying, I can look at truancy and ERs per visit. When I pulled the data from 2019 through, I've got 20 kids for the whole year. I've got 3 here. So if they're not in school and they're not coming, where are they? And so we met as collaborative to come up with, if they see a kid with 60, and we were dealing with the egregious cases first, to try to get that off of the school system, not inundate our fins, and yet have a way to not inundate the court. And so that's what we've done. It's not an answer to it all. But for those who are in our role at our point of support, we cannot directly intervene in absenteeism. There's no direct path from the law. It is only through truancy. And we do the revised statute for prosecuting the parents when it is an elementary child, where the culpability lies with the parents. And when they are brought into court, the parent can have an attendance improvement plan. And on that plan, there are conditions for the child, there are also conditions for the parent. So I can direct them to parenting, I can direct them to whatever in order that to be done. And so at the end of the day, is it working? That's the data piece that we're collecting. How many successful? How many unsuccessful? And what's surprising is the UTL, unable to locate. And then the question is, where are our kids? Where are they? They're moving around, but that extra, even the extra there would come to court, because our district attorney will do a DA to locate, and they'll send your investigators out to not inundate our law enforcement to try to go look for kids here and there. They have investigators. And their investigators can then go out and knock on doors in the middle of the day to see kids running around in the parking lot and all other places to figure out if we can find them. And so we do find some.
It sounds like a good tool for internal use within the judicial system.
Yes.
Is this an unfunded mandate? Is there a cost associated with it?
No, because this would just be a recommendation to create the guidance to be used across the district. So should they want to use it, because I don't think some of them even have the guidance. It could be in a flow chart, information sheet. And then LaFois just saying that they also have a similar process, so that would also be a second guide that you could provide to the different districts. And
We do free work, so. We do, and our local law enforcement, we work with them, well, and we do have 3 different parishes, so it's done differently in all 3. And one, the sheriff's department would start, or our representative, it's actually here today, they would start, they would get the numbers from the school system, not a referral, the numbers, and then they would, I say start, give them a letter to come and work with Vince, and they would have the, school system would be there, the school system kind of ran it, we would have fence workers, so it wasn't into my court, but I mean, on any given day, what, 50 people may show, I mean, so it was pre-court and all of those things, and then and then they work with them, and, they try to implement, whether it's FFT, all of those services, any services we could think, and do they need an, evaluation, the mom need evaluation, do they need assistance, volunteers for America, whatever. And then after that, it's same kind of thing, if they're not getting any, any things are going better, then they're gonna file a petition and bring them in, and then of course you're gonna have to address the parents for the kids, and the school system's already been involved. But we gotta get, it's hard to get referrals.
Right. But this allows us guidance to share with each other. And I know Mr. Martin had a sheriff here today. You wanna?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think all of us appreciate that, there's no one person and no one agency is gonna solve this problem, but certainly you will identify who all the players are, right? What are the roles and responsibilities? One who, personally, I haven't heard from you, is the law enforcement group, and so we do have a sheriff here today, so we recognize, sheriff sheets, what it is, and give them an opportunity to engage in this as well.
Please.
Just like to thank you for allowing me to come and having me here. I was elected in St. Louis Parish. My name is Clay Shoots, I'm the sheriff of St. Louis Parish. Been in for about 4 months now. When I campaigned as sheriff, one of the main things I campaigned on was school safety. I'm gonna give you a very brief history of our school. We have one high school in St. Louis Parish. In 2023, we had 2 school shootings. One person was killed, 2 were wounded, and we had approximately 50 rounds fired in those 2 school shootings. So I thought school safety was something that I should really harp on. I have done it. Some things I've done, completely revamped my juvenile section. I've got a school resource officer. We're really working with school safety. I know that's not what this meeting is about. It's about school appearance. I'd like to introduce my juvenile officer, Captain Sharkey, who's gonna let you know a few things where we're going on school activities.
Good morning, y'all. Thanks for having us. My name's Daniel Sharkey. I came from Tangi. Judge Edwards was my judge. I ran juvenile court programs in the 21st for several years. I've been in juvenile since 2008 until present. Coming in with St. Louis, what I've done is we're totally revamping our outlook on juvenile and what the direction we're wanting to go. We've applied for numerous grants. We have been awarding those grants. One of those grants is geared towards truancy on the law enforcement side. And as Judge Edwards spoke earlier, I was that guy in Tangi. School system would notify me, they send me an email, I was a compliance officer. I would go out and I would do a home study, looking past the behavior, looking at the need. What is the need of this family? What is the need of this child? I, in turn, would draft an email, send it back to the school system, bring that data into our juvenile court facility, not juvenile court. We had a room set up where we would allow the school board to come in. They would hold truancy, intervention, and diversion, bringing it into an official setting where let these parents know, okay, I'm in the courthouse now, things have gotten real. In that term, and as Judge Edwards spoke, I was that guy that would get those 65.
75, 85 absences. I was the first line. I would get it, I would look at it. What am I supposed to do with this? Is this kid too far gone? And that would come to me directly from the school, from the attendance person at the school. We've seen a reduction in tangible. With these funds that I have, we're going to take not a reactive approach, but a proactive approach in St. Helena. Any and all assistance y'all can give, Ms. Casey and Ms. Shannon, come to know them, I'm a TBRI practitioner. Adopted the trauma-informed mindset, traveled the state, and anything that y'all are willing to assist us with, any ideas on the proactive side. At this point, we had 0 when we came in. I have our numbers. I pulled our numbers out of the 21st out of St. Helena as far as fins and tasks. I'm gonna give y'all a brief overview. From July 2021 to June of 2022, there was 10 school referrals of fins. July 2022 to June of 2023, had 0. From July 2023 to October of 2024, I had 1.
What's the truancy rate?
Astronomical. I cannot give you a hard percentage.
So they're not doing it. They're not, it's not being done all from the school.
So that's where we go back to the 10, right? And what prescriptions we have for the team that they should be reporting and how to hold them accountable so that we know it is an accurate reflection of the truancy rate.
It is, and truancy, I mean, that's law enforcement. My main objective is not put handcuffs on kids. My main objective is not put handcuffs on parents. However, truancy leads to crime.
Yeah. And our kids are unsafe in that environment. And
they're being influenced.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for coming today. We appreciate it.
Thank y'all, man.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Recommendation number 6, and we have about 30 minutes, so I will be moving a little quicker with these. Limit number of days that can be excused by a parent no to 5 per year. This is the recommendation that came from the committee at our last meeting. Any comments, concerns, or questions? I think we came up with 5 of the, yes.
I had a question about this because, if each note, now typically our notes excuse up to 3 days each. That could be 15 absences with this block, with the way that this is saying. Are we saying that 5 notes equals 1 absence per note? Are we saying that it could be up to 3 absences each note?
And we spoke about that last time, about the days, and we said it was each time they're absent, they have to provide a note, and it was up to 5 times that they could be excused with those notes. So really, that's up to 10 days for truancy again, so.
What's one note good for? Is it good for 1 day?
It's good for 1 day, one event, yes.
Yeah, I think we have 1 note. Requesting 3 days or 3 days.
That's correct.
Saying it's
That's right.
So what, how do you want us to clarify it?
Well, it's just that it's gotta say that 1 note equals 1 day. Or you just say,
Let's just say that
1 day, say the number of days.
Maybe there.
Yeah.
Just put 5 days per
Put
year.
5 days, 5 days per year, if that's what we're trying to say.
Yes, and that makes it very,
There you go.
So limited,
5 days, they are limited to be 5 days of excused absences by a parent or per year.
Yes.
I think that's another question is it already in policy that they have to accept notes? Because that's the issue we have is that these policies say things, but they don't tell the school they have to accept them. And we have schools, the majority of our schools in Orleans Parish are saying no parent notes at all. So if this is in here, are we gonna say to schools, you have to accept parent notes? They are part of. Excuse me.
that's what I'm asking, there's not, that's what I did.
It is a policy, the policy says no, and our parish should say it for others.
Okay, so it's not, it's not, I'm saying across the board.
Yes, it is a policy already in 741.
And I just want to ask a quick question, because I am about to muddy the waters, and you'll probably say to suck that up, but are we gonna take parent notes for like, I realized my child was 6, so here's a parent note, well, we went to Disney World, or do we have to accept them for frivolous reasons, or do we accept all notes?
I personally feel like they're gonna lie to us, even if they go to these, they're not gonna say.
Just say 5 minutes no matter what.
Just say 5 no matter what.
I agree.
And that's kind of what I felt the
I agree.
response.
They're
was.
gonna lie, it's honest.
I know they
They can pull that one back from Disney and just say, because she was sick. So
Yeah.
I just say 5.
I wouldn't try to say one, but I'll.
Just to add, as a parent, I have no idea what it means for me to send a note as a parent. I don't know if that means, what it means. Like the seat time, all those things. And it counts toward truancy, I don't know what it means for me to send them a note. What the impact on.
Recommendation number 7.
No, so, and just correct me if I'm wrong, so it means that they are excused from the absence, it does not count for truancy, however, every absence counts toward statement requirements, correct, and not. So in other words, I can send in 5 excused absences. As long as it doesn't start pushing out the seat time requirements, I don't have to make up seat time requirements. If I send in 5 absences based upon that school and it starts eating into seat time requirements, I still have to make up seat time requirements and I can fail.
I guess my
I
point is,
understand what you're saying as a parent.
moving on to number 7,
We need to
clarifying what these mean, what your risk, or your account, so we can explain what to it.
It could be put at number 7 really nicely for the parent in that.
Yes, I agree with that.
We can provide it in again.
Yes.
And visual, where there's this many boxes, like for parents to know where they are on the count for the year.
I agree with that.
They're important to practice.
So we want to add that to the standardized form, or we want to just make sure that's under recommendation number 6? I think it should go on that form. On the form, yeah. All right, so we'll create a standardized form for parent notes, paper and digital, and it also explains, with the absences, the impact of the absences, for the student and the parent.
And so in bulletin 741, where it says that you have to accept parent notes, it just excludes Orleans or excludes charters?
It doesn't exclude Arlene did not add it, even like tardies are part of the statute, but in our stuff, Arlene, tardies doesn't.
We just have, I think, a lot of like people on our staff who want to be able to bridge the gap with like school counselors and school social workers who want to be able to engage families. And when the school is saying you can't even write one note, it's creating, but
So we're gonna
if
change
you
that.
cross a line and go into Jefferson Parish, you can. I think that's what's feels really inequitable to me, just from the perspective of like, just making sure schools do these things.
Yes, we have been working with Ms. Roman is here too. We have been working with Arlene's Parish to recreate the truancy process. So we've had several meetings to make sure that we have guidance coming out, hopefully by January, to make sure that we were aligned with the state statutes and along with the policy. Yes.
And just to add also, to include on that note, the target policy.
Recommendation number 8, require improved delivery of career exploration and extracurricular activities in elementary and middle school.
So, in statute that, we should be providing that to our school systems. We can't say that that's happening widely across the board, so this would be a recommendation. We would create guidance for school systems to implement this across the state, so this recommendation is action. So it would not be something that we say you have to do, we're just creating a guide.
Is it not that that would increase attendance?
It's a possibility.
That's something that's.
It's connecting.
I mean, the policy, the end date.
Those kids go to school and then you see a drop off after, after football season.
Concerns on that particular one? All right, so we have, made a lot of changes and updates to the various recommendations. So, right now, what I would like to see is an endorsement of what we've done today, on this, and then what will happen is these will, be presented in a report and come to Betsy in December, as a result of what has happened in this past over this year.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved, by Mr. Kane, seconded by, Ms. Judge Grover to, endorse the Star Task Force recommendation. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposition? So much. Right, I do need to go back to, which one is it? This is something on the agenda. Oh, no, a motion to approve the minute, a motion and a second to approve the minutes that we, said there were no changes. Can I get a motion for that?
Motion.
Ms. Sims? And Judge Evans. Approve the motion. Judge, with the motion to approve the minutes. Moved by Ms. Sims and seconded by Judge Evans. Thank you. All right, so. Mr. Ebar, we have gonna switch gears to the report from Mr. Ebar.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin Ebar. I'm the Senior Systems Engineer for J Campus. Hopefully when this comes up, we'll explain why that should be important to you guys and give a bit of education on that. I only have 5 slides. I promise you will be very quick, very fast. I do appreciate getting to visit. A lot of my clients are here. One of my favorite clients are sitting here. So you get a chance to take a look at some of the stuff that they have available to them. I will say that the conversations here have been really good. One of the things that I find that's interesting in the state of Louisiana, we are a multinational company, so I'm in a lot of other countries also. But one of the things I find amazing is Louisiana is so dynamic. My northern guys, and I'm gonna call Pat northern, even though I know you're not at the top of the state, versus my big guys that are down more in the southern part of it, Lafayette is where I live at. All have dynamics in how they do attendance, what they call attendance. You said, what, if they can have a parent note or not, what does that mean? Charters up in the north, but you were in the northernmost client probably this year. Go to second slide. So what we wanted to talk about real quick is what is J Campus, why it's kind of important. Package, I'm gonna kind of show you guys a little flyer and some things like that. Next slide, please. First of all, what is J Campus? There's a little graphic over there on the blue is how many districts we have in this state that's currently running my software. 97 districts to include private charters, Montessori's. That's a little over 1,000 schools, 31,000 plus teachers, and right at 500,000 students. And we just announced a few more coming on board. So now we're well over 500,000 students in this state that's running my software and doing attendance. Next slide, please. What we decided to do after actually sitting in this meeting for a while, we're figuring out that even though there's a lot of electronics and a lot of tools out there, a lot of clients really didn't know they even existed, okay? So just doing some visualization tools, for instance, I was telling actually earlier, I was putting in some new charts that I pushed out to all my principals that just showed their daily attendance rate. And it was amazing to me how many I'd go visit and call and say, I had no idea this many kids were missing. I had no idea what my fluency rate. I noticed the sheriff left back here, but his fluency rate is 43.7%. That's what it for St. Helena Parish. But trying to educate people on, hey guys, there is a problem. There's so many things going on that sometimes they overlook the things that are happening in front of them. We're going to talk a little bit. Next slide, please. All I did right here was, I don't want to go through all this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. What we kind of focused on was what we decided to do as a company to try and help out my state, because I was born here, I live here, is to educate our users that rather than getting into what is truancy, what is chronic absenteeism, and all this other stuff we're talking about, we decided to focus on that tier 1 communication. You guys are talking about day 3. Yeah, we have all the letters that go out. Day 5, day 7. What I put in here, I'm listening to you guys is day 0 is where I want to start. Before the kids miss, it's educating your parents on why they need to come to school. Because a lot of your parents did not have good experiences when they were in school. Some of the things right off the bat that we're changing now, and probably 50% of my clients, rather than saying calling up, because J Campus will produce a lot of calls, which we'll see here in a second. In fact, communications. We made 11.3 million phone calls last year, 56.4 million text messages. I'll tell you that's probably less than 30% of what I should have been doing. I'm saying that because we're doing a text message that says Kevin D. Barr missed school today. Pretty sure the parent knew that their kid missed school today. But we're changing it to say, we missed Kevin at school today, and this is what he missed. Making it inviting, making it more positive, doing the thing about this building relationships so that pre-plan, fatigue, prevention, getting in there, doing a little bit more upfront, telling them why they need to come to school, educating them on what is the truancy policy. Guarantee you, 90% of your parents don't have a clue what that is. And what is chronic absenteeism? They don't know that. So we're educating the parents up front, building the relationships. Everybody here has kind of expressed it. It's all unique. We are a very unique state. We have to build those relationships up front. Go to the next slide, please. I want to go through this quickly because I wanted to kind of, I know we're running a time crunch here. So tools available. We talked a lot about electronics, a lot about we're all short-handed. We know that. One of the things that I love about this meeting is I have multiple of my districts now that we've actually implemented. We've had it for 10 years, but I've had 7 districts in the last couple of months who turned on our DA module to allow the district attorneys and the judges' offices to pull data within the PII constraints. They can only see students that are marked as being truant and so forth. But being able to pull data and interact directly with the school system so we can become a better team rather than I fight this, like you're talking about, by the time it gets down the chain, it's too late. When a kid misses 30, 40 days, they're not gonna pass. We need to do this much faster. So using electronics to do this stuff, campus-based attendance, these are some of the tools that we have available. Lots of visualization tools, but being able to use campus-based attendance just for school safety. When a kid gets off the bus, they scan on. That means I know they're on campus. EPR does a good job of this in some of their schools. That way, when they miss first period, they don't get marked absent. They get marked as skipped, and we go find them because I know they're on my campus someplace. That helps with attendance posting. We have a lot of reports, which I talked about in the last page of this thing, this tools available. A lot of tools. One of the things that I found to be very valuable is just something simple as this, which is a report that tells me everybody who's missed more than 15 days of school and highlight them. You'll find that attendance is very geographic based. I will have certain areas, certain housing complexes in the state that have missed more days than other places. We can be take our limited CWAs and focus, Dr. Barber now. We spent a lot of time working on this in these Baton Rouge parish, focusing on how they can maximize their visits rather than just running all over the place, but let's maximize our visits. Communications, phone calls, text messages, greatly underutilized. Every time you miss a day of school in J campus, 30 seconds later, you're going to get a text message. Okay, that tells you something you already know, but we're not using it to be very proactive. So one of the things that we're focusing on is taking these tools, next slide, please, which you might is taking all of these tools and doing things like we take the district policy and we have ways of going to J campus where I can push the district policy to somebody. And when they touch their phone and their phone opens it up, I now have a digital fingerprint that says this person is now aware of the truancy rules and the truancy policies that are going along with that. Just pushing a lot of data to stakeholders to actually engage with them so they know what's going on. The second thing is in the court system, whenever we send out an attendance letter or a call, when you touch your phone, I now have a fingerprint that says you saw this message. You knew your child missed. You knew they missed 6 days. It wasn't like, I didn't know they missed that many. Yes, you did. You saw the message, you touched it. It's not generic text message because we're using @base. I now have biometric signatures that that person saw it at this time. That really helps whenever I'm trying to get more regulation in place. Last thing is we have a lot of things right here on this time to turn excuse reasons. Truancy is a big deal, but I'll tell you, I've had districts that went from 30% truancy down to 10% by just doing this right here, how to turn in an excuse reason. When you send them a message saying, these are the reasons your child can be excused. Did they go to a funeral? Did they have a doctor's visit? Well, today's world, not mine over there, you can tell how old I am, but most people don't walk without a phone in their hand. They may not get a doctor's excuse, you'll give it to their child and hope that child gets it to school and they then get left on the bus someplace. They'll stay in their backpack for 3 weeks, to get it to a teacher, the teacher gets it to an attendance clerk, the attendance clerk gets it put in. Long process. With J Campus, since we have apps and everything in place, many of my districts now, we're simply going to app-based. So whenever I'm in a doctor's office, take a picture of the excuse. That feeds right back into the attendance system. It doesn't affect chronic absenteeism, they still miss instruction. But it does incredibly help my truancy rate. Because if I give a way to educate the parents on what is the excuse reason, and give them a way to get back into J Campus quickly, we can do all those excuses. Last thing here. We have statewide users meetings that we do every single year in southern part of the state and northern part of the state. We made attendance a bigger issue in that. We're getting our CWAs and things to start attending those things so we can get better education out there. We have multiple statewide webinars we're setting up to talk about the flyers over there. If you guys want to grab some, we head up. This is not competing with everything that this board is doing, but we do have a student attendance plan that we're putting out in these webinars. It's going to talk about prevention, relationships in tier 1. It's going to talk about tier 2 and what do we do with 3-day letters, 5-day letters. You know, 11 PPR's case, we print out 5-day letters, then just have their signature. You have the DA in them. You can bind it to show more teamwork and forth that I can do a really great job in tier 1, guys, which I think we're failing at. To make well, that's in tier 2. I can do a good job in tier 2. I don't even worry about what chronic absenteeism is. If I can do the first 2 correctly. So we're spending a lot of our time focusing on setting up these meetings, monthly meetings. So now I was just got approval, my last meeting up in Shreveport. We're going to start doing monthly meetings, webinars and site visits to go up and talk about attendance. I'm telling you, once I can bring this and I let people know what's really happening in their schools, because we're worrying about high intensity instruction and all these other things that are coming down to principals. But if I can get them to understand truancy, how it really works, how we can use the tools that are already available, so you can see 500,000 students out there. By the way, we made a big point. There's not any additional cost for this. If you have J Campus, you have these tools, period. Not gonna go in and say you gotta buy extra money for this, that, and the other. We understand truancy is a big deal. We're putting in all of this stuff to make sure it works. The last thing down there is district visits. Every one of my people, I have 10 people in the state, they're all in the geographical area. Every time they visit a school system now, attendance, passing this out, we're gonna discuss attendance. It's not gonna be something that's, oh, well, let's talk about an excuse reason code or something. We're making this a forefront, of what we're going out and educating our clients to do. With that, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I wanted to just quickly explain the tools that we have. Over here on the side, I do have a badging station set up that is part of what, in case you're interested, they can look at it. This is what, when a student walks onto campus, they get off their bus, I can scan their badge. I know where they are. I mean, I even have districts to the point that I know how many minutes they spend in the bathroom. But they've got to use their badges to open the door to get in the bathroom, okay? I can do anything you want on the technology side, as long as we make sure that the school systems are interested in analyzing the data. Data is useless until it becomes information. Yes. We have to make sure. So what that does is simply tell me that they activated the device, rather than simply say, oh, it's an email, and they say, if I send an email out, I get a read receipt, that anybody could have read the email. This way, I know that this person actually activated this device. Okay. And
What's involved in installing the badging system?
right now, it's, first of all, it's included in J Campus. All those districts you saw have, here.
Oh, that's
What's
free.
It's included. I've always never used the word free, but it's included in their base price. There's no upcharge. The only thing that they have to do to implement the badging system is buy the hardware, so not a hardware. They gotta buy the scanners. And they have to have a badge that is on that student's person. For my elementary
Most
kids,
all high school students have badges, right?
And Brian.
they should. They should. I will tell you, I have a lot of my districts that do not have student badges. I have a lot of districts that do not have staff badges.
What is the scanner called? Hardware.
anywhere from $35 to the one that you see right there to about $200, depending if they're using RFID card or just barcodes. Just depends on the district and what they want to spend. That barcode scanner that you see there, there's nothing more than a barcode in the back of the badge that you scan, $35.
Is there any, cost for programming to map the school system to the scanner?
None. That's all included in my costs and setup. I will say that after talking with the STAR team and getting more out there, I have more than most of my northern guys. Union, Madison, Morehouse, all those guys up in that area. They're the ones who are a little bit more behind in technology than my southern. All of those districts now starting to implement badging systems. With nothing else, just for school safety.
So for $200 a school, you can do it.
Yes. Now, you have to have something that's gonna go print the badge. You don't print the badges either.
Assuming they have the badge.
Right, assuming they have the badges, we're looking at $200 a school max.
So one of the, I missed the last meeting, but I think the meeting prior to that, one of the major topics of conversation I recall was, the reporting accuracy was a huge issue.
Yes.
And there were a lot of gaps there. I don't see any recommendations on anything addressing the accuracy concerns. I really appreciate the conversation here and anything we can do to make this more visible, where school systems appreciate that other school systems are using technology right now, what they're doing with it, and minimal costs involved.
I will tell you, as far as the accuracy goes, I actually have, I'm just throwing a number about actually 23.5% of my districts. Talking about accuracy, they literally will put their attendance in at the end of the week on purpose because it bypasses my communication system. If you scan a person out today, 30 seconds later, I'm putting a phone call out to that parent. If you put it in on a Friday and they missed on Monday, I'm not calling a parent on Friday, telling the kid missed on Monday, because we don't make that phone call. A lot of my districts literally will delay putting in attendance in order to bypass automated systems and not get these parents engaged. It's kind of like you're going, I'm making it easier for you, but you're actually trying to block the threat of communication. Because they don't want the parents calling and complaining, you just called me 10 times to tell me my kid was absent, I know my kid's absent. So, we've got to make sure that we do, that's why I'm talking about these positive things that we got to do.
As far as the accuracy goes as well, we have a lot of codes in J Campus.
Yes.
How do we get those, or what do we do to get, because I think that kind of use
That's
our
a-
data.
That's a really good point, because I'll tell you this, you have 96 codes about here. You know what they have?
We don't use half of them.
They have 10. They have,
Yeah,
wait a minute, they have 10.
That's a.
Because
local
we can
district.
actually gather data that's specific to the
Create them
district.
in your data.
So what I can do is I'll send you your code list.
I'm thinking you could take them out.
You don't need more than 10. You have 96. Lafayette has more codes than anybody else.
In the last person had the conversation when he retired. So we have a new director, so I would like to. That's definitely look at that.
But that is a local thing. I can send you your code list. I'm telling you, you have you have more codes than anybody else in the state. I have no idea why.
That's all right.
But
I'm being active.
look at the, EBR does a great job collecting the data they can focus on. You don't need to have all of this. I need to have a focus here. Okay, EBR does a great job. In fact, I've taken their attendance plan and built a lot of it in J Campus because they do such a great job. They're one of the best districts as far as follow-up, how they engage. I love their plan. It starts with day 0, day 1. This is what a teacher does. Day 2, this is what a school does. Day 3, then it comes over to you. But I love their plan on every single day of how you do engagement. To Mr. Morris's point, though, you gotta have set standards because I have districts that literally don't. If you tell them I have 25% truancy, they're going like, great. I get it back. We don't have an expectation.
Thank you.
We're not aiming at anything, guys.
So to piggyback on that, I am gonna make a recommendation that the STAR Task Force reconvene in May or June or sooner. To review attendance truancy data, because now that we have a standardized definition, we can now start collecting data the same way. To look at the impact of our recommendations and what is working and what is not working, if additional training is necessary. And then from there, I think we can come to create a standard of accountability of what is the expectation. Because I need to know now, am I really at 40 or am I at 30? And then are we decreasing as a standard? What are we doing to create that standard across the state of Louisiana? But I think we need to make sure, we know our truancy rates right now, I'm not sure. And again, even with like the JPAMs, I think that is good, but just remember, until a teacher takes attendance in that classroom, that's the attendance that you have to use. Even though they're in the building, it gives me that information that that student is in my building and present. But the actual attendance has to come from that teacher of record in her class to say that that student is in the class. To make sure that, and teachers are not taking attendance accurately, correctly, and on time. So that is something, again, I think when we go back to monitoring the attendance from that committee, we need to make sure that that's being done in the classroom.
Do we know the reasons why these things aren't happening? Because, I mean, it's easy to say you need to do this, this, and this, but if we don't know the reason why, then are we setting them up for failure? To put these expectations, but not know if they're doable? I mean, it's just a question, when I think about it.
Not that, I'll say this, but let me preface it and say that I don't agree with what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna tell you what I heard as a former principal. I just got in there and we got started and I didn't do it. Well, if you make it a part of your start, so that means you don't. So what I would do as a principal is, I have no problem like having the crucial conversation of you are legally liable for this
Right.
child. When you fail to do your attendance, the child goes out and does something, you are legally liable for this child. So I don't know if you can afford the liability that you put yourself in. And so having those tough conversations and being that direct, but the common excuse that you hear is, I just got caught up and I didn't do it. I would even have my secretary, go in a common reminder, attendance should have been done, write a report, who didn't do attendance.
Every school we work in, like, at 8:15, they come across the other conversation, your attendance is due now, and it's already started, like.
I feel that, the principal, the teachers, I'm not gonna do
So
it.
it is setting that expectation.
Yes.
And you can put a report per class.
Yes.
To see whether or not they attendance for grading.
And I think if teachers don't have time for that, that's a leadership issue in their school, or it's an issue with them not having the support. It's not an issue with needing to take attendance, it's an issue with the system not having the space for that, and then that is a leadership issue at school, I would say. For
And
sure.
then that's where you're trying to change that culture of the school.
Exactly.
Which goes back to the attendance team.
Which is the first recommendation.
It's pulling those attendance records, students not taking attendance.
Right, and why is it not happening? You should uncover why it's not happening in that first recommendation.
Yes. Yes.
Can I add also that, as parents, we don't know how chronic this is. Like, when I heard 40-some% truancy rate, that's horrific. So I think if the principals are sharing and educating the parents on what's really going on and setting a goal and having these, just an awareness, here's the policy and really spending time on that. And having check-ins throughout the year, how they're doing at school.
So more parent engagement is what I hear you say.
More district, school leader engagement, and then school leader, because I bet if you ask most teachers, they couldn't say the attendance rate of that school. Maybe their classroom, but not.
I mean, really statewide, that's horrible.
Did we, can't remember, did we, address or consider a policy requirement with the truancy rate? We posted on the website, the school website. Did we get there yet?
I think we did say that they had to have some kind of maybe link to looking at attendance data or something, I thought that was part of.
I can go back, we can go back and look at our notes.
Like the dashboard or whatever, like you get access to the statewide dashboard from that
I think
school.
your points, we need to raise your profile, and that's certainly one way to do it. So I would certainly think that is for level.
I'll throw this in right quick from the parent side. In J Campus, we have a parent portal, obviously, and we have a teacher portal also that logs in. I have no districts in this state that allow me to publish my truancy data to parents. It's a button press, but I have no districts in this state that allow me to publish truancy data to my parents. And I have about 50% that let teachers know what their truancy rates are. The rest block that from teachers too.
May I ask
This is
why?
something they want to hide.
Why?
Like a choice.
I believe that everybody should have access to anything as long as it doesn't violate PII. But I'm telling you, I have no districts in this state that allow me to publish fluency data and even attendance trending data, and push that out of my apps.
And like, the fact is, tier one PBIS that's not being done, it's not being implemented, because if you are implementing tier one PBIS, you are talking about that data.
Yes.
For sure. And can I say this though, and I'm against doing that until we have consistency, because I'm gonna go back to Arlene's Parish, and I'm gonna fight for my district under the bus a little bit. But until policy is consistent and we have the enforcement from outside the school level to the external agencies that's supposed to participate in the intervention, it is unfair to the school. I mean, we gather paperwork, we send paperwork in, it's not always necessarily processed properly. So of course, the truancy is gonna show high in some schools. If you have one agency that's helping large districts, we need to make sure administratively we have pieces in place to support these schools with truancy. Because right now, the interventions and the preventions and the other pieces are not in place. So throwing schools out there to punish them in places that we can't control right now, I think it's unfair.
Was it punishment or is it just knowledge?
And I think that's a problem, yeah, it's not a problem for people to know the data, it's a problem that we're not doing the systems
Right.
correctly.
Right.
So the data's not the problem, the information is not the problem.
And if you're accepting 15 parent notes and Arlene's is not accepting any, then my truancy and my absenteeism is not consistent. It's not fair. So I think we need to create the standard first and now hold everybody accountable. And once that standard is created, we go back and put accountability, which I think, Mr. Morris, you're kind of referring to more, into place for the district. But there needs to be a level of accountability.
I do think there's a certain amount of shock factor that goes with it, though, that does help public get more engaged. It makes
Right, I
businesses
agree.
more engaged, it makes everyone in the community more engaged. If I didn't have a kid, but I still saw that 40% of the kids in my parents weren't going to school, I would care just as a person. So I think like that's what we're missing out on by having it be a secret, is we're missing out on getting all people at the table, which is what needs to happen to move forward. So I think it is like, balancing, not wanting schools to be the target of, people being angry, but at the same time, people need to know the truth of what's going on.
But LDOE does publish the truancy rate, so that does sit on LDOE.
But only ADA, it does like.
No, they're publishing truancy, the districts may not be publishing it, but you can go to LDOE, I can look up each school and tell you the truancy rate.
There's no parent who knows that or where to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we have just two more items on the agenda. I fear that that we're not gonna get to everything, but I do wanna, bring this one up, definitely. So in your packet that you received, the last 4 pages, the resolution that came from, House Concurrent Resolution number 2 that asked the department as well as the Baton Rouge Area Chamber to come together to create actually 2 different reports on school start times. And if you look at the document, it talks about the sufficient sleep is essential for healthy development of functioning children and adolescents. Adjusting school start times may align more closely with the sleep of adolescents. They do talk about truancy in here as well. And so we actually did a survey of school counselors, transportation directors, other individuals that were at our counseling institutes last month, so that we could get some data on this. As far as how good school start times. So what we're asking for you all is, how does adjusting school start times, how would that possibly affect attendance or truancy issue? We're not saying that this is gonna happen, this is a study. Please don't go say that, oh, we're about to change the school start time, elementary, middle, or high.
Well, that's already started, because I got a phone call 2 weeks ago.
That is not what we're doing. This is just getting information for this report that a legislator asked that we study. And there's supposed to be a task force that's led by the Baton Rouge Area Chamber that they are leading, and so it's just in conjunction with that. So we just kind of want to get some anecdotal evidence from you all, comments from you all with regard to this. So how will the change in school start time for middle or high school affect attendance concerns? How do you think it would have?
Can I say before y'all get into it, my local schools did adjust their times in St. Tammany, Covington, Danville, Madisonville area. With the youngest schools starting later, they're staggered by like 45 minutes between the three levels. So that can give you numbers.
What time do
there,
they
what
start?
actually happened. The high school's at 7:30, and then 8:10, and then 8:45.
So the thought is,
Oh, so the opposite.
Yeah.
Well, high school starts early.
no, high school starts later.
The opposite.
So I did that like 2 years ago. I started an hour and 15 minutes later. It didn't work for us. We went back to our regular time. The kids were coming later, but as far as being coherent and doing what they're supposed to do, we didn't see a difference after 2 years. And then they complained about getting out of school later. So now band practice went from 4:30 to 6:30 instead of 3:30 to 5:30, and they were leaving. So we.
That's
went
what
back
I
to
was
an
gonna
earlier
say. When you're
time.
talking about middle school and high school,
Yeah.
if you're looking at it just within the confines of the school day, it doesn't sound like a bad idea. But when you start throwing in extracurriculars and the kids are getting home later and then they're doing their homework, they're getting to bed later, you still got the same problem. You're just
We did.
deferring where it happens.
We did. We're going to bed even later now. Instead of 1:30, we're going to bed 3:30, 2:30. We're still tired.
Then it impacts
That was
parents that have smaller kids, because some of the high schools are the ones that are getting home ahead of time because of their dismissal time and getting the younger ones off.
And getting the.
Even put it in the morning.
Yeah.
So that affects me right now. I don't know what they.
Yeah, we said that was the thought. I think what we're saying is that right now, most of the high schools are starting, say, at 7, the elementary are starting at 8.
Yeah.
Flip-flopping that. So the elementary starting at 7, the high school starting at 8, but to your point, it would delay the extracurricular activities in the afternoon.
Practices.
And jobs for high school.
And the job, that was another issue. They were going to work later.
So those were the questions that we asked in the survey.
Yeah,
So we're
we-
just trying to get some feedback from you all as well on that.
Our district staggers like that, and I think really the reason why they use that is because of transportation. So that it means it's.
Oh, but in the after-
Multiple levels, yeah.
So any other thoughts or concerns about that we can just kind of add to our report?
I think California did that, so you might want to look there. That's what we got.
Okay. Ms.
Also,
Romer?
on this issue, I would encourage you all, if you are opposed to that type of mandate, this is an idea that's coming through a chamber of commerce. So I'm just gonna take a moment on how important it is for school communities to be working with your chambers of commerce when these sorts of things come up. Because this issue is absolutely coming from one particular chamber of commerce. So, just FYI, so keep your folks informed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we will, we're gonna be compiling that report, and it will be coming, actually will come to, Betsy, and then it'll be transmitted over to the legislature, based on your feedback as well as other feedback and research that we have done on this particular topic. Okay, all right. So, I have that slide, I wouldn't have that slide. So it's just the HCR, which you all have a copy of the request. All right, we have one, thing on the last thing on the agenda, which is key endeavors related to attendance. This will come to Betsy, in December as well. But, so one thing that the Department of Education did was set up some education priorities. And we had 2 priorities, 2 key performance indicators related to attendance, which I don't have them on the screen, but they are to reduce the average number of days absent for all students by 2 days per student, reduce the chronically absent students by 5 percentage points, and we're talking about over the next 4 years. And so basically with the recommendations that we kind of made today, as well as these key endeavors that you see on the screen, this is the work that LGOE would do to help reach those 2 key performance indicators. And this information will come to Betsy in a little more detail in December. So I just wanted to kind of share these ahead of time with you all. And so this is the work that we would do going out to the schools and school systems to provide that assistance with attendance related issues. So do outreach on attendance, identifying systems in need of support from community and safety net organizations, provide on-site training and support to CWA staff utilizing data and ensuring students are in school, provide on-site visits to schools tracking the effectiveness of implementation of attendance plans, provide training and ongoing support to data managers and our school level attendance personnel on attendance reporting, ensuring accurate attendance data is collected and entered daily. And so that kind of goes, really all four of those go back in line with the recommendations that we made. Really goes back to recommendation number one for the most part, kind of all tied in there. And so, but we'll provide additional information on this in December at this. And so hopefully you either will be in attendance or you will be feeling this from your various. The final thing is that the report and recommendation is going to be coming in December. You're going to be coming back. You said your recommendation was to come back to me in spring, in late summer, late spring, early summer, to look at where we are with implementation. And so that's really all that we have on the agenda, unless there's something else that someone else has or any additional public comment. Well, we thank you all for your time, and we will definitely keep you with you as we. Thank you for coming today.
For 2 years, all I'm getting, I'm sorry. I go to see if anything's changed.